All right, guys, we're going to go ahead and replace all of our skimmer faceplates, our light faceplates, our main drain, our return faceplates, and gaskets. It's critical that you do that. Now, this one has a winter plug in the return. You're going to want to take all those out and then start taking the actual faceplate off. And you don't have to save that. You do want to replace that. Now, on your step, you're going to have these beauty strips and of course the faceplate underneath. If those are in good condition, you don't need to replace those. You can maybe scrub them off and clean them. If it's beyond repair, if it has any type of crack, what you're going to want to do is go ahead and replace that as well. So don't try to save it if it looks like it has any type of blemish or damage to it. You can buy all new fittings and gaskets and faceplates on poolwarehouse.com when you're replacing your liner as well.
So whenever you're replacing your liner, you want to make sure and order enough gaskets and faceplate material for the entire swimming pool. So count up the number of returns you have and get new faceplates. They get pretty ragged after a while. Another thing you might want to do is get a little container to put all your screws in. Keep up with those. What we're doing is we're going in here after we've removed the liner and we're putting some silicone around the skimmer. And now Jones is going to place this gasket.
You want to make sure you line up your holes, and you do want to always use silicone, so don't skip that part. You could put the gasket on without that, but you need a watertight seal, so make sure you do use that silicone.
We're going to take a couple of screws also, and we're going to put a couple of screws in here just to hold it in place until it dries.
So we're going to go ahead and replace the gaskets on all the returns as well. And we do recommend that you buy new ones, so they'll come packaged. And you want to make sure you get those on there. You're going to need to use some more silicone.
We're taking the junction box lid off. This is connected to the swimming pool light. So if you need to consult a local electrician, or if you've got a buddy that's an electrician, have them come help you out with this. So I'm going to take these little nuts off here.
While JT gets that on loose, you're definitely going to want some nylon string, so it's pretty important that you have this. We're going to attach the string to the cable for the light. And the main reason for that is you're going to want to be able to pull that cord back through after you take the light out. So you're going to remove the light. The cable is going to come through, you're going to leave it there. Once you put the new liner in and you add that light bulb back in, you're going to pull that cable back through using this string. So don't forget to do that, otherwise you won't be able to get a light back in there very easily.
And I'm just going to stick a little piece of duct tape around this rather than tie it. A little bit easier to work with. And then I'm going to go in here and I'm going to try to tape those wires together too. That way everything stays nice and tight when it's sliding through that conduit.
If you're not comfortable doing electric work, hire an electrician, consult with an electrician. Your breaker definitely needs to be off. You do not want power running through this before you start touching electrical wires.
It might get zapped.
Absolutely. If you don't feel comfortable with doing that, then make sure you consult with somebody else. We don't want you to get shocked or get hurt, so be careful dealing with electricity. All right, I think that looks good. We're going to go down into the pool now and start getting that light out. JT is going to go ahead and start pulling the light out. That top screw is what you need to unloosen there to get it out.
Don't want to lose it. Should have a little backer on it.
There you go. Now that cable is all wound up inside of there, but you should be able to gently start pulling it out. And so it's starting to come out as well. You're also going to want to make sure that you take off your faceplate because you're going to want to replace the light gasket as well. All right, you're going to pull until you can see that string. Just cut that string. You're going to want to wind it up and just leave it stored right inside the niche, because when we come back, we're going to cut out that liner once we get our new faceplate and gasket on and attach our cable to that string. So let's go ahead and start taking this off. All right guys, it's really important to make sure that the bottom of the pool is clean, so you're going to want to sweep everything down into the hopper, and you may need to use a shop vac to get out all the extra water and debris, but make sure you're starting off with a really clean pool floor.
All right, so what we're doing is we're installing the wall foam on the swimming pool. We're putting it around the interior of the walls so that when we drop that liner, we've got a really nice fit and finish. So it's important also to note when you're building a brand new swimming pool or replacing a liner, if you have steel walls, always put foam in when you're putting that liner in.
All right, so we're putting that wall foam in all the way around the pool. We do recommend wall foam for all steel wall pools. If you have polymer walls, you don't need to do it, but on steel walls, we definitely recommend that. Just make sure once you get it in that you cut out that whole skimmer area and the return areas. So just cut out around that. And we do have some spray adhesive that we sell as well. You'll probably need 3 or 4 cans for this size pool. It's a 1632. And we'll sell you that with the wall foam. You definitely want to get that if this is a steel wall pool. All right guys, so we've got this pool liner down in the deep end of the pool. It's important to note that you have the liner facing the shallow end. So if you'll see the box here, it says place pool liner at deep end, arrow facing pool. So we're in the deep end, the arrow is facing the shallow end of the pool. That arrow will be on the box.
All right, so whenever you open your liner box, you're gonna have this folder full of materials, and the very first thing, it tells you to stop, okay? You're gonna check your inventory. Is the pattern correct? Are the dimensions, are they correct? And that's the label that Jones pointed out a moment ago. It's gonna have all the dimensions on there. It's also gonna have some instructions in here. Please take a moment and make sure you do read these. They're very, very important for the installation of your swimming pool. And last but not least, you have some little white plastic tools. These are great. They're gonna help you when you're putting your liner in the receiver track. And you can just take these little plastic wedges, slide them in. We'll show you how these work later.
And real quick, just to point out, if you were looking at this box, it's going to say 1632, and right there is the pattern. It's an Oxford Aquarius. It's going to say 24-inch radius. That's the corner radius. So you can quickly check that the measurements are correct, and obviously that the right liner pattern is in the box. Now what we're going to do is go ahead and unroll this liner, and we're going to bring it back up to the shallow end. So we're going to start from the shallow end and work our way back to the deep end. So, ooh, that is a pretty liner pattern.
I was about to say, that is a gorgeous pattern. This Cambridge Aquarius pattern is one of our top selling patterns. This is a 28 mil liner, so it's a little bit thicker than a 20.
It's really important that you don't wear shoes when you're putting in the liner. You don't want the potential to put a hole in it. It's also really important to wear very soft, comfortable plush socks. Has nothing to do with the liner, but it feels great on your feet. All right, what we're going to do is go ahead and put in a couple screws at the top and at the bottom on this strip here for your step. We're going to do it on both sides, and that's so we can go back and easily locate that hole with your finger. Then you'll just take a screwdriver, punch a little hole on top of the liner. This is so that you can find the screw later. You don't need to do it on all. Once you get it started, you can easily find the other ones. You're going to want to do that on your skimmers, your returns, and your light as well. At least put 1 or 2 screws in there. That way you can come back and find them later.
On all the liners, it's super nice. They've got a really nice receiver bead on the liner, and it goes right inside the receiver track in your coping. Very user-friendly, very easy to work with. You're just going to take it and slide it right into the coping track, and it'll hang there quite nicely. All right, so what we're doing is we're trying to get the position of the radius corners on the liner. Jones is going to release his side just a little bit, and we're going to come my way some. We want to make sure that that seam is right up against the wall and the floor.
We're going to work this liner in to about the break line. That's where it starts to slope down to the deep end. And then at that point, it's really hard to see, but there's a fine seam you can see if you look really close. We're going to try to make sure that seam is perfectly lined up with the break line. Now you may want to use a wedge to keep the liner. It's starting to come out a little bit right here as we're working it. So I'm going to wedge it in there. We're going to sandbag right in front of the step. Now, you probably don't have sandbags like these. These are covered in vinyl, but all you need to do is take a sandbag, wrap it in a trash bag, and then you can use it. You just want to drop it right in front of the step. We're going to keep that liner from wanting to pull back as the water starts to fill in the deep end. So all that water pressure is going to want to pull the liner the opposite way. So we're going to try to keep it in place right here. All right, so we've got the liner in, we've checked all of our corners. They look really good, so you want to make sure that you check all your corners before you turn your vacuum on and you start adding water. You're going to want to make sure that you keep any air from coming out. We're trying to create a really good suction, so put tape on the holes that are on the top of your skimmer basket. So just cover all those holes with a little piece of tape, and that'll help keep the airtight seal that we're trying to create.
I'm getting ready to drop the hose to this vacuum. We've got the liner all in place. I've pulled out a little area here. We're going to drop the hose all the way down to where the floor meets the wall. Now, most people don't have a professional liner installation vac like this. Shop vacs work perfectly. One of the 5-gallon shop vacs, they're great. I'm going to use this shirt that I have. It's kind of an old rag, and I'm going to stuff it down next to these holes in the vac. That way we create a good suction.
Now we're at the point where you'll want to make sure you're checked for any kind of wrinkles. If you had a wrinkle, you could try to work it out of the floor into the wall. It'll disappear into the wall, so you'll just want to get down. If you see a little spot, just work it into the wall, and it'll disappear up into the wall. If it's really not a wrinkle, if it's just maybe a divot, that'll flatten out when you get water on top of the liner. But if you have a true wrinkle, you can work that out and push that wrinkle over to the wall, and it'll just kind of disappear and fade away.
All right, what I'm doing is I'm taking a little bit of duct tape and sealing the backside between the liner and the step so that we get that really good seal, because we don't want air escaping. If you have air escaping, that's going to keep the liner from sucking up tight against the walls.
It's also important to note that when we start filling it, we've got water going in now, but when you start filling, you want to fill the deep end first and let that water come up right below the step. If you happen to lose power at night, make sure you turn your water off. You want to make sure that this is filled up while the vacuum is running. You're looking for about ankle deep in the shallow end before you start cutting in the steps, your returns, and your skimmers.
It's very important that you do not ever wear tennis shoes when you're installing a liner. Always have your socks on.
Everything's looking good now. We've got water filling up in the deep end. We're going to come back tomorrow and show you how to cut in your step, your light, your returns, and your skimmers. Make sure to cut the water off when you hit about 3 to 4 inches in the shallow end. All right, we're back on day 2. We've gone ahead and cut the vacuum and the water off. We've got about 3 inches to 4 inches in the shallow end, and that's perfect, right where we need it.
Yeah, so we're gonna go inside, get the returns cut in, the skimmer cut in, the steps cut in. So let's get started.
All right, we're gonna go ahead and get this skimmer cut in. Now, we left 4 screws backed down into the faceplate so that way we could find a spot to position ourselves. So you definitely want to be careful because this is the first hole you're going to make in your liner, and you want to make sure that you don't mess that up. But I found that screw head. There we go. So what we'll do is go ahead and find the other ones, back those out, put our faceplate on and our gasket, and then cut that in. All right, so we've got our gasket and our faceplate here. You're going to stretch that gasket, just press it on the back there of the skimmer face, and it fits pretty nicely. JT's going to go ahead and get our first hole in here.
So you're going to feel around the edges there in this rectangular faceplate, and then once you've got it where you want it, you're going to take those screws that you took out and put them right back in.
Now you may not want to tighten them all down yet.
Just want to get them snug. Just snug all the way around. Do one corner, then the other corner, and just keep working your way around.
Putting some of these screws in just the first little bit with this drill. Don't tighten them down all the way with the drill. Use a screwdriver because it's just plastic on plastic and you can strip out the screws from the skimmer. So make sure you do that with a hand tool.
So we have our faceplate on. All of our screws have been hand tightened down with the screwdriver. Now what we're going to do is cut this vinyl liner material in here to expose the skimmer. I'm going to start down here and make an X, then come over here, do the same thing, and then just trim around the edges. Super simple.
So it looks like we've got a little wrinkle that came up overnight. We're going to show you how to quickly work that out. So if you want to, just push into the wall. And as you can see, that liner wrinkle is starting to go away. I'm just going to work it over with my hands to the wall. And that wrinkle's gone. If it's more severe, you can try to use a plunger to move that wrinkle to the wall, but that wrinkle is now completely gone. Ready to put our return faceplate on. Now if you'll notice on the back of this return, it's notched. That faceplate has little notches. The return also has corresponding raised notches that you can slip that into so you can find out exactly where that hole is. Okay, got that first screw in. We'll go ahead and get the other three in and then cut out the inside. Now this is the hardest part to cut in. You can easily slip and cut your liner, so you definitely want to follow around that lip, make a small hole there, and use extreme caution. That way you make sure you don't cut any of the liner on the outside. We're about to cut this step in. The first thing we need to do is get all of our gaskets and faceplates on. Now JT is going to pull this up so that it's even with the liner track of the coping. And we've got some screws that are back down in here, and that's what we're going to use to locate that first hole. So we've got that first screw. So I'm going to go ahead and back that out and start getting my faceplate on all the way down. I've got another screw in the bottom as well that I'll locate as soon as I get down to that point.
All right, so Jones is down in the pool and he is putting the step faceplate material on. Jones, how's it going down there?
All right, it's going great down here. We've almost got the step finished up. Now you may need a flexible bit extender. You can pick that up from any local hardware store. The water is just right above that faceplate, so if you don't have one of these, you may need to do it by hand. Other than that though, this is going in pretty smoothly. We should have it about wrapped up. Okay, we're going to go ahead and get this step cut in. Now the way we like to do it is start at the bottom and cut all the way across. Okay, so we've got it cut all the way across the bottom, and now we're going to work up the sides.
Voila.
All right, that looks great. You can go back and clean up any little edges that are sticking out if you missed a little bit, but other than that, the step cuts out pretty simply, I think.
We're going to walk through installing the light. So we'll take the faceplate first, install the faceplate ring. We will cut out the liner material on the interior section of that faceplate ring. Make sure not to cut outside of the ring. Once we've done that, we will take our line that we fed through and pull the cord to the light all the way through. Once we get that pulled through, then we can set our light and screw it into the faceplate. Once we've done that, we'll get it all wired up and ready to turn on.
All right, I think that's it. The pool liner fit like a glove. It looks great. We're going to go ahead and start filling it up with water. And that's really how you replace a pool liner from poolwarehouse.com.
Yeah, it's beautiful. If you have any questions at all whatsoever, please don't hesitate to call us at 800-515-1747, or you can always visit our website at www.poolwarehouse.com.